everyone, I'm in Dallas right now and I'm gonna do a little road trip to Waco, and if you want to come along you can join, but first coffee and then we'll start the drive, and I'll tell you why we're going to Waco in just a second. Hi, my name is Rachel and I'm an airline pilot by day, and when I'm on the ground I like to study business, and I run my own cheeky little satirical shop called Montecito Minimalist. In today's video we're going to be breaking down 2 celebrity lifestyle brands and why they just haven't found their footing yet. And then we're going to take a look at a very unexpected media empire that was started by a couple that were house flippers in Waco, Texas. So first at the forefront, Meghan Markle's As Ever brand. Obviously this has been in the news recently. It was launched a little less than a year ago, and since then it's been in the news with Netflix discontinuing their partnership and not renewing a 3rd season of With Love, Meghan. Now this is kind of an interesting lifestyle brand because they kind of reverse engineered it, right? It was like, oh, here's someone who's really famous. Here's one of the biggest studios on the planet. This should be easy, right? And for some reason it just didn't really work. And I think it was a couple things. I've broken down the brand in other videos, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do think that, you know, there was a few issues. There was no real hero product. There was no product obsession. All of it was kind of based on proximity to Meghan. You know, and the founder was sort of the main event and not necessarily the goods or products sold. I think that, coupled with some confusion, right? The brands that was kind of an afterthought. It wasn't really on the show. And then with her trying to sort of be the student and the expert at the same time, I think just confused a lot of viewers. Just nothing was really ever clear. But, and I also break down branding and labeling and stuff like that. But again, these are all theories. I'm just learning about business as I go along with all of you. So if you want to see those breakdowns, those are going to be probably linked somewhere, at least at the very end of the video. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's kind of interesting. The business never really materialized in the way that I think a business would, that you would expect, you know, having Netflix behind it. But, you know, we'll see where it goes from here. Now, the other brand is one that I haven't spoken about. I was thinking about actually doing its own separate video. So if you would like that, I will gladly do that. Just leave me a comment down below. But it's Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. Now here's another one that you would think, oh, okay, famous, check, Oscar winner, check, lifestyle brand, double check, right? That sort of seems kind of like that would all work. And somehow, this is almost uncomfortable to say, but they have raised, to date, over the past 18 years of being in business, they've raised $140 million. And they still have yet to turn a profit, which I find interesting, because if Paul down the street wanted to open Paul's Pools and then never made a profit, like, is that successful? I'm not really sure. It's different. Now, I will say it did start off as a newsletter in 2008. She didn't do her first round of funding until 2015, where she did 10 million. Then 2016, she did another 10 million. And she's done things. She has like a high-end skincare line. She had a low-end skincare line that was pulled from shelves at Target late last year. She tried doing Goop at Sea, but that didn't really take off. She has her own clothing line, you know, so she has tried to pivot. But I do find it interesting that they haven't made a profit in 20 years in business. And I'm actually kind of curious, and I'd like to look into it deeper. Why do people keep investing for a company that hasn't actually made a profit? I don't know. So that's why I'm sort of speculating or thinking about maybe doing a deeper dive on there. But anyway, that brings me to our 3rd brand, which is why we're going to Waco. Okay, so back in Texas, you're probably wondering, why are you here? Well, to be honest with you, I wanted to come see Joanna Gaines's world in person, right? So I was doing a lot of research, and I was looking at Goop and I was looking at As Ever, and I thought, okay, well, what's like this generation's success story when it comes to lifestyle? I was watching Shark Tank, and then I saw Chip and Joanna Gaines, and I thought, oh yeah, they have. I always see like their like store within a store at Target and stuff, and I thought, I see Magnolia. So when I was watching this rerun of Shark Tank, they were talking about this whole world that she and Chip had created. And I thought, well, that's a lifestyle brand. Like, that's one that's successful. And so I started doing research on it. And I was just going to do sort of the other videos that I've done, which is just, talk to camera and do my research and sort of list out facts and stuff. And then I thought, hold on a second. There's a reason why I'm an airline pilot. And that reason is to be able to jump on a plane whenever I want. And I thought, let me go to Dallas and let me actually go see Waco for myself. And I want to go see what Magnolia is. And I want to go see how her world feels like. Is it proximity to Joanna that we're looking at? Or, has she done something different? And from the looks of it and from my research, it's different. It's not so much where I think Gwyneth Paltrow was based more on, her taste. Meghan's company is more in proximity to Meghan. I think Magnolia, just from the literature that I've read, it's about making your place special. And I think that's what's sort of interesting. There's really if you look at the literature, there's no proximity to Joanna and Chip. It's more of just, hey, we're here to make your home feel a little more special. So anyways, that's what we're gonna do. It's about a 2-hour drive, so I will talk to you guys in Waco. Yeah, okay, let's go. Here we are, in this adorable little town of Waco. I think what's interesting about this is, when you think about the Duchess or the movie star, right? You kind of pin those as like the next lifestyle gurus, the next media empire coming out of Waco, Texas is freaking awesome, really. So this lady just told me that the reason why Chip and Joanna got this is because they were the only ones that were actually going to keep the silos. Oh, I should go this way. But other developers were going to tear that down, but because they were going to keep the silos and make it more of like a city center, that's why they sold it to Chip and Joanna. And she said she just took a flower pressing class in here. Lovely couple from South Dakota, if they end up watching this. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Chip and Joanna's ascent, it's amazing what they were capable of doing in less than 10 years. In 2013, they had their pilot for Fixer Upper, and in 2014, they were given their first season. In 2015, Chip and Joanna had bought the Silos, which now is that beautiful shopping district. And in 2016, they opened up their own quarterly magazine, which is still in publication today, 10 years on. In 2017, they finished Fixer Upper, and then in 2021, they started with a string of shows on the Discovery Plus network. And in 2022, they actually have the Magnolia network. So in 9 years, from pilot to network, that's like, which is insane to think about, right? Especially when, for example, Goop has been around for what is now almost 20 years, and they are still searching for profitability. And this is someone who's been famous since the 90s, right? Famously winning her Oscar in the late 90s. And to give you an idea of how fast Chip and Joanna rose, when Chip and Joanna were shooting their pilot, Gwyneth Paltrow was starring in Iron Man 3. So she had Marvel movie money. And so that's what I find really, really interesting about their ascent and what they've done in such a short amount of time. Editing Rachel here, what's remarkable is how quickly they rose. Chip and Joanna weren't famous first, and they didn't come with the kind of built-in visibility that Gwyneth had. What they built quickly, and from much further back. And what's really interesting about the silos is there's quiet moments. There's places that you can go and sort of find and get lost in. And it's not, I understand it's a shopping district, like I get it, right? Like I know that, but even the way that the shops are designed, all the little sort of micro shops that you could go into, it's not just a big box retailer with all of their stuff. There's also not a whole lot of references to Chip and Joanna around property. There was a couple of posters kind of out by the front. Then the store, the number 16 store, that was sort of the masculine shop. You can go in and some of Chip's books were on display, but none of it was ever really aspirational. And watching a lot of, and I don't mean that, I should preface that, I don't mean that in that it's not a brand that you should not want to desire. What I mean is that it's a brand that doesn't sell down to you, if that makes sense. The other thing about them is that you could see them solve problems on their show, and I think that's what made them admirable. Is by the time they got the show Fixer Upper, they had already done about 100 flips. So they weren't novices. They weren't there trying to like figure it out as they went along, but then also proclaim that they were pros. Like these guys were pros, right? And you would see what Chip would do, and you'd see Joanna's eye for style. And then it was just this really sweet kind of, you could see the change happen, and you could see how happy the people were that these changes happened in their house. And so their real focus, when they like redid a room, it wasn't like, oh, well, this is Joanna's favorite thing, and this is Chip's favorite thing, and you're gonna love this because this is Chip's favorite thing, and then you're gonna love this because there was none of that. It was just, here's your home. It feels a little more like home, and I think that that's what is really, I think that's why their brand did so well in such a short amount of time. One of the other things that I found really interesting was that I was talking to these couples and families from all over the country, from Chicago, from Missouri, from South Dakota, and they all went there, and they were all talking about how Waco felt nostalgic, sort of like what life should be. And I think that's a very important tell in a lifestyle brand, is it transforms you, it takes you, and it makes your life better, and it improves your life. And with Chip and Joanna, and with the silos, and with Waco in general, I think it's almost like, oh, this is what life should feel like. It doesn't have to be the hustle and bustle. The kids don't need to be on iPads. They can be playing soccer in the field or playing baseball or something. And I think that's what's really nice. They built sort of this wonderland, that it was better than the outside world. And, I think in the same way that Disneyland, that Main Street and Disneyland is a little nostalgic, I think that's what this is as well. I think it's a little nostalgic for a life that we all wish we had, or maybe a life that could be. The more time I spent here, the more it became clear that what Chip and Joanna built was always bigger than home decor and bigger than renovation television. Meghan sold proximity, Gwyneth sold wellness with extravagance. But Magnolia built something far more difficult: trust. Not just because Joanna has a good eye, or because the products look beautiful, or because the grounds are so thoughtfully done, but because people watch them work. They watch them solve problems, they watch them build a life, a business, and a point of view over time. And when you come here, you can feel that. It doesn't feel grabby, it doesn't feel like you're being sold down to. It feels like you're being invited into a world that is calm, welcoming, safe, and deeply human. A place where kids can run around, where people can slow down, where beauty feels usable instead of performative. It feels nostalgic, not because it's old, but because it reminds people of what life could be: warmer, steadier, more connected, and a little less performative. And maybe that's the real lesson here. The most believable brand was not built by the most famous people in the room. It was built by the people willing to do the work. You can fake glamour, you can fake status, but the one thing Hollywood hasn't been able to fake is hard work. It doesn't matter if you're the movie star or the Duchess. In the end, real effort is what builds something people believe in. And that's why the couple from Waco built what Hollywood couldn't. Until next time.